TownHall Heroes. What up, everyone? Hello and welcome back to TownHall Heroes, episode number 177. A bit of a different plan for the show this week. Initially, Cattle, Ishbu, and myself were planning on just talking about HGC and the structure for next year, but we were blessed with patch notes and, of course, the Stitches rework. We got our first glimpse at that. As I mentioned, we got Cattlepillar and Ishbu, and Cattle, you guys both were playing at BlizzCon just a few weeks ago. Now you're in the offseason. How's the adjustment been to going from training hardcore to just chilling?
It's been relaxing. This is like a longer... Well, now we're scrimming again, but after BlizzCon, it's like the first real break I've really taken in like 3 years, I guess. Or like 2 years at least. So it's been nice. But now scrimming again is hard.
In what way? Just the mental...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like exhausted from 6 hours. Like I'll get back into it in like a week, but the first day we scrimmed, after 6 hours, I was like, Jesus, like this is way too many.
Do you do anything special for your break, or is it just kind of chilling?
I went up to like a cabin with some friends, and we just hung out in the mountains for like 3 days, and then my parents visited for Thanksgiving.
Nice. Good way to do it. Escape the digital life. Go out into nature. Well, Ishbu, I believe it's your first time on the show, yes?
Yep, that is correct. First time here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, first off, welcome. You two had the whole grind. I mean, your whole year has been a grind. Making the HGC, going to BlizzCon. First off, I just want to say congrats, getting to cast you throughout Open Division and then watching your transition as a player from, basically a new undiscovered player to become what you have in the last 2 years has been insane. And it's a pleasure to finally have you on the show. But how about you? What has your little break been like?
As you said, it's been kind of a grind. We kind of went on a journey all the way to BlizzCon and kind of hitting that goal, and then having this time afterwards just to reconsider was interesting. We spent a lot of time just kind of resetting our stuff, but I don't know, got a lot of different time with friends, family. Similar to what Cattle said, spent a lot with friends, going out, like doing other stuff, a little bit of D&D, a little bit of other nerd stuff that I just haven't been able to get to. A couple other games I've been meaning to give a try, but just haven't been able to play during the regular season, stuff like that. So I don't know, it's been fun, it's been relaxing, but personally, I don't know, I'm kind of just ready to get back to scrims. It's just when it takes up so much of your life, it's like not having scrims, just like you feel like there's just so much time that you just don't know what to do with. So
no,
I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, it's a big part of your life. It's your job. It's like going on vacation and then being like, okay, I'm ready to go back to work. But then the work might not be there. It's like, oh, that's actually awful. Obviously, I'm not trying to say the work's not going to be there next year. I'm just saying that the work is not there at this moment. There has been a lot of doom and gloom, and I did want to get this out there early. The HGC announcement from last year had not happened at this point yet, right? There's been a lot of people stating that there have been no announcements, what's happening with the HGC, and we are going to talk about what the format structures that might exist, but there will be something. There's like little to no chance that Blizzard's just like, nope, HGC's gone, boys. Like I really don't see that being even in the cards, because when we look at the global Blizzard outlook on everything HGC, China has announced their structure, which has 2 seasons, HGC format in China for Heroes, $700,000 in prizing for Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3 has always been big in China. Overwatch, Hearthstone, yada yada. They've got all their stuff announced. In the US, the only info I've seen is I've seen a couple Overwatch casters, like ZP announced he's casting Contenders again. I saw that another Overwatch caster announced he's not doing it, so there are some contracts there. But beyond that, I haven't heard anything about StarCraft or Heroes or Hearthstone or anything in the West. So while we will talk about structure and potential changes and yada yada later today, I don't think anybody should be worrying about Heroes esports going anywhere for next year. And I think you guys agree with that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember even before HGC came out, there were a couple people I knew who quit because they're like, "Oh, Heroes isn't going anywhere. It's dead. It's gonna die within a year or two." And then the next year, HGC comes out, and everyone who stayed with it was in it. So like, I don't know what things are going, but seeing as there's been a lot of like leadership changes and stuff in the HOTS team, from what I can tell,
Yeah.
I can only imagine it's just things are getting like happening slow. But I can't see it, as you said, I can't see it just disappearing. Like, it's not like it's going to go from something to nothing when there's so many people that want it, and that is thanks to fans, like the people watching. So thank you.
Yeah. I think there were hiccups in 2018, like not having the Twitch bits. I think for the first half of the year was like, there's some weird stuff that happened this year. But again, we'll get to that a bit later. Let's start with the fun, juicy content that is the patch notes that came out maybe 4 or 5 hours ago. The community's been pretty restless, I'd say, post BlizzCon because we didn't get the XP changes yet. We haven't gotten a whole lot. We got Orphea, and that was about it. So justified that we're all like, all right, there's all this other stuff we're promised. Where is it? We've gotten the first taste of that. And I will preface this by saying I find it a bit weird that they kind of rolled out the roll hover thing, but not the roll rework system. So when you go to hover the heroes, for some of them, it will say healer, but it won't say support if they're a support. And it won't say it just will have no category if you hover a bruiser, right? Because that classification has not been added to the game yet. But at least it's a step in that direction. Naturally, that's not really going to affect you guys in the esports scene, but I think just the adding of that kind of understanding of what a hero does just by hovering them is a really good step for the game in terms of just learning and approaching as a new player. Did they add anything else similar or anything else that's non-balance wise to this patch that I might have missed?
No, just mainly the QM thing, just forcing team comps. So like if you queue as 3, you can't pick like 3 supports because then your comp will be balanced. It like forces you to have some of every role, which I think is really good.
Yeah. No, I mean, there seem to be a lot of these. I mean, obviously, a lot of the non-balance changes aren't really aimed at us as players. They seem to be aimed at a different demographic, but they seem pretty healthy overall. So.
And, at the end of the day, that is so important for any game or esport because the general player base is what builds the community at the end of the day. Also, I think they've done a really nice job. I'm actually loading up heroes now so we can hopefully see it, but of showing where you're going to get bonus experience and giving people incentive to break out of their comfort zone. So right now, if I log in and we look at stitches, you'll actually see playing this hero will yield bonus experience. And that's a really nice change, right? People are going to see this and they'll be like, well, maybe I'll get a loot box because I get bonus XP for playing a tank right now, and because tanks are just not being queued up as much. This will be good for, again, the average player. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, more information, more clarification, more balanced QM, because I know every once in a while when I have to play QM to like level a hero or I'm playing with friends, everyone always says, oh, the enemy team has the better team comp, and it's like, well, both team comps are pretty mediocre. I don't really know if there's a comparison to be made. Just doesn't matter what comp ours is, the enemy has the better one. That's all my QM teammates know.
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Naturally, there's some other small things that we can just go over the fluff. The Leo skin came out, obviously highly asked for. A lot of fan favorite things coming out. We got the Cloak and Announcer in this patch. They added sprays from All Wreck of the Storm.
Added the 6.5 banner.
Yeah, that's great.
That's all I'm going to be using from now on.
I'm there with the Cloak and Announcer, putting that on every hero, every game. You gotta love it.
I like the, ooh, look, a talent. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff. And
I mean, my favorite, I was posting it like day one, but like I like one-shot someone with Orphea, and then I said, oof, that guy didn't read the patch notes. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect.
Flawless execution. No, they did a phenomenal job with the writing and that. And it's fun, fluffy content, but it's like amazing content the community wanted, and it's just delivered exactly how we could always hope for it to be. But all right, I'm going to start the patch notes a little bit differently. Instead of going through the entire list, I want to ask each of you, we're going to start with Cattle, what you think the best change of any hero is in this patch and why.
Ooh, that's kind of hard. I
I know.
pretty much all the changes. So,
Pick one. Pick one.
I mean, this is definitely not the most impactful. Just the one I like the most. Anything that nerfs Abathur, sign me up. So I know it's a small one. It's only 6 less health per tick, but that's more than 0. So I'm down.
Abathur nerfs.
Yeah, Cattle's hatred for Abathur is very well known.
It's
What's your whole thing? Ban Abba every map in HL unless BBJ's in queue, and then ban it even on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Yep.
I mean, you also got to be excited by the fact that the dev notes state that they're going to continue to iterate on him. It seems like they don't want Abathur to... Well, they're clearly tweaking his support capabilities.
I'll believe it when I see it. He's been like S tier situationally for 4 years straight, so just drop him like a tier 2 or something.
I mean, so here's the interesting thing for me, though, just thinking a little bit outside of just what Abathur is the way that they're doing the reclassification, the fact that there's no longer going to be a specialist, right? It's going to be melee assassin, range assassin, healer, support, bruiser, tank. He's clearly going to be labeled a support. So tools like Mule and Battlefield tools like that are going to be what he's all about. So I can't imagine he'd ever lose healing, but I wonder if they'll try to give him more support-like utility, make him all about speed and healing and stuff like that for allies.
I mean, I feel like the hero is going to continue to be strong as long as they allow him to have the global soak capability, just safe hat soaking.
Right.
But I don't know. I say this is a team that's abused Abathur as much as any. The hero definitely has some issues. But yeah. I don't know. This is just a direct target nerf at Heroes Hearth. That's how I'm taking it. So.
Excellent. All right, Ishmael, what's your favorite change?
I am very biased, and this is for a very specific reason. But the Blaze Bunker change, as well as even the buffs they gave to his level 4 talents, were actually direct feedback I gave to them post BlizzCon. I actually sent like a several page like essay of sorts, like telling them like, yo, Bunker needs to be nerfed and other things need to be brought up to make this hero more balanced for other things. So I don't know if this is actually going to fully accomplish that, but like this is just like, I guess this is as much to other pro players. Like these changes were like literally something they told me, like I told them I thought was a good idea, along with a bunch of other things that they thought were terrible ideas, I'm sure. But this was a direct response of my own feedback, so I'm a little bit like biased here.
No, that's cool.
This was something I actually talked with them about. They sent me a response saying we liked these specific ideas, we're going to iterate on them, and this was the result. And so I'm just personally a little bit happy with that one. But I do think it's something that's been kind of needed. Bunker is kind of the type of ability that as long as it's on the ground, like no one can die. And that's just not a really fun thing to play around. So the idea behind the change was effectively to make it so like you have some window to punish people before they get in Bunker.
Anything that denies counterplay is just it feels horrible, right? It feels horrible to watch. It feels horrible to play against. And
I mean, Blaze has been in this like problematic situation where he's like top pick in HL and sorry, not top pick in competitive, but like horrible in standard play, especially in lower tiers. And so at BlizzCon, I literally messaged Asgaz like, "You need to do this," and he said, "Give me more." So I gave him more information when I got back, and this was the result. But it pretty much stands like the character's base kit needs to be buffed, and the character's bunker needed to be nerfed for this hero to be like viable outside of just competitive play, in my mind. So this was just kind of, I thought it was a very healthy direction for the change, and I hope it works out good because I'd like to think I have some idea of. Like,
well, I mean, yeah,
changes.
I'm sitting here with like 2 of the best tanks in the world right now. Cattle, how do you feel about these changes to Blaze?
I played him a ton in Scrimstay already. I mean, he's obviously weaker, but I like the direction it's going. I like that Oral Dispersal isn't just like clearly the best talent in the game, basically. It's just like, ridiculous. And I tried out the other talents. I think I played all the other level 4 talents, and they're all like, they all have their place, I think, now. They're all just like pretty good, which is nice, just having a little more like versatility on him.
Yeah.
Plus you can like main tank him now.
Yeah, we were starting to see a little bit more of that towards the end of last year. Is this going to help it become even more prominent?
I think before these nerfs, he was like a god main tank.
Okay.
I think he's still.
He was just a god in general before these changes.
Yeah,
but the meltdown increase and stuff, that's not. I mean, I feel like that would help him out.
The other feedback I gave to him that if they wanted Blaze to be a better main tank, they had to give him a better unstoppable than Newt Habits. And they apparently didn't like that, or either didn't like that or didn't feel it was something they, I don't know, they didn't iterate on that.
I just think it's tough when you consider that it's kind of a gray line because you have Iron Skin and Johanna, and his trait is kind of, it would become too similar. And
the way I considered it was like, I didn't compare him to like Joe as much as I compared him to like Garrosh, which is like, Garrosh, especially at high levels, you need the unstoppable to be able to get your engage. Like you have to Q and then usually unstoppable to walk up and throw. Otherwise you get like rooted by Malf or not, like you get something will hit you and you won't be able to reach the target. So I kind of figured it was a similar logic. Like if you gave Blaze an unstoppable or a better access to an unstoppable early game, because right now it takes forever for him to get it, and that's tied to a 90-second cooldown. It would just make his engage a tiny bit more consistent. But as I said, they didn't seem to like that idea as much. So I don't know. I think these changes, especially Feed the Flame, will probably make him a better solo laner than a main tank. But I don't know. I still think it's just healthier for both.
Oh, broke everything. Rip. What about, okay, going down to Mal'Ganis. I think this has been a hot topic in the scene. And Ishbu, you actually put a tweet out basically stating that you think Mal'Ganis, although he has a high win rate, is a little bit overrated. People got to learn how to play against him. And in contrast, you think that Orphea is better than people are giving her credit for. People got to just get better with her. Mal'Ganis did receive some changes here. Fellclaw, you know, it's a nerf across the board, right? Everything. It's Q, basic attack damage, Carrion Swarm, and Will of Tychondrius.
I guess since you addressed me, I'll start this even though you start. I said this on my stream. I said this and stuff. Like I honestly did not think Mal'Ganis was a good hero. Like even before this nerf, I felt like he's the. My best way of explaining is I think the hero rewards playing tank badly. I feel like this hero literally rewards like going in, trying to like 1v5 and just try to survive as much as possible and not dying, especially if the enemy doesn't know how to combine CC.
Literally how I play him.
Which means he's going to be really good in like low levels. Yeah. But when people learn how to combine CC, when people learn how to draft stuff that can kill him, or even just when people know how to not get caught by his stuff, because all of his engage is very straightforward and predictable. Like you can't do early game picks and stuff with this hero. He just doesn't have that capability. So I thought the hero was like actually really weak, but I've been having so many people tell me he's good and that I'm just not rating him. So like I'm trying to figure out what I'm missing or something, but I've even had it go so far as like Mopsio like came in my stream and sent me replays, and I was like watching them, I'm like, oop. Okay, yeah, so we're back. He even sent me replays of him like 1v9ing in HL, and I watched them and I was like, this literally looks like you're just running around doing nothing the entire game. I don't know what to say. But I don't know. Maybe Cattle has different opinions on him. Like I'm not particularly impressed.
I don't know. I thought he was in a pretty good spot. He's like super fun, and since I think it's just like he's really, at least in scrims, like Hero League, you just kind of do whatever, you smash your buttons, but he's like really timing based, and you have to keep track of like everyone's cooldowns and really like hold your Q to get value from it. So I don't know. I've been enjoying him a ton. I just feel like his biggest problem was, and still is, it's just the fact that his like he's like too dependent on talents. So like your E is just like pretty bad until 13. It's just like not fast enough. Your Q, like you're not tanky enough, you don't heal enough until you get the Q lifesteal at 7. I don't know. He's like super talent spike dependent, which I don't like personally. But I don't know. I still think he was in a pretty good spot. Now after the nerfs,
I mean, if anything, like what I'm saying was like I didn't think he was good before this, and if they nerfed him, this like it's minor nerfs, but it's minor nerfs across a lot of things that matter.
Yeah.
So I can see this actually hurting him pretty bad. So I don't know.
I think the nerfs were a lot.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of these nerfs, at least from a competitive standpoint.
I feel like he's going to end up being a hero that feels insanely powerful in very specific situations. So if you don't have the interrupt for his heroic, almost like a Chen, but obviously more volatile than a Chen, where you just can't do anything to him. In a team fight, he's going to just be able to engage and do whatever the hell he wants and live with it. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think it's fine for heroes to exist in the meta that have a specific niche that always have to be considered in draft and come out and just feel like a powerhouse in those situations, because I don't know, the hero pool is getting larger and larger, and not every hero is going to be viable in every situation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree that he could be really insanely strong without CC, let's say, on the enemy team?
I mean, I already thought that was kind of his niche before the nerfs, and now after the nerfs, it's like it's even more forced niche. I mean, I think it's fine, and I think it's okay for that, but it just means that more if you can't build too many of these heroes, otherwise like nothing is safe to take first rotation, like because we have to think of things in terms of draft order. A hero like Mal'Ganis filling a very specific niche means you can't pick him before like the last few picks, because I think honestly Mal'Ganis is the type of hero that can be countered by only like 1 to 2 picks.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking a hero that like needs like 3 picks to counter, then it's like okay, like or not 3 picks at hard counter, but like a general strategy made by a combination of 3 picks. Like I understand it, but it like sometimes when you pick a hero, it's like oh, if they have 1 hero, I'm useless. It's like oh, this doesn't feel good at all.
Rework to everyone's favorite abomination.
Oop.
That's when I went full screen on the Stitches video in preparation, and the audio played immediately. So, but yeah, we're getting ready to show. It's a good segue to talk about Stitches as well. But no, that's honestly a good point. I mean, obviously, not every hero is going to be first pick though, right? Like not going to be first pick material.
I mean, yeah, not everything's going to be a first pick, but I don't like the fact I like heroes that when I pick them and the enemy counters them, I still have options. Like right now, one of my favorite heroes is still Diablo, and I'm happy to first pick him because even if the enemy team counters him, I feel like I can play into the counters. I don't feel like that with Mal'Ganis, but maybe that's just me. I frankly I suck at him, so maybe it's just me.
It's definitely part of it. Just I don't know. It's just the fact that like I feel like in most drafts you end up picking the main tank role like in the first half of the draft, and it's pretty hard to squeeze him in there. So you have to like draft like preparing for him to be picked late already, and then there's like a lower and lower chance of him actually being good. So
yeah, no, I mean
that's a good point.
That niche you're describing already like a ton of DPS picks already fill that role, so it's like adding that tanks to that, it's like just gets awkward.
It's a good point. Could you think of one thing that you would change to him that would balance him out to make him better?
You want to go or should I?
And so many people in the chat are like, "What are you talking about? Mal'Ganis is OP."
Like,
and again, that's average level player base.
I mean,
sure.
That's kind of our point. Like the hero's a pub stomper.
Yeah.
Like
I like his CC. He just like he doesn't need to do as much damage as he does. He just needs like the sustain so he can play around his cooldowns. Like make his I don't know. It feels like right now there's only one talent build, so it's just the kind of situation where it's like make his good talents like kind of baseline and then give him weaker talents just so that there's more flexibility. So he's not like this is the one direction you have, and if they're good against you, you can't change anything about it.
Yeah. For me, I just kind of like, for the sake of having some sort of early game CC pressure and making his engage a little bit harder to avoid, maybe like a slightly farther travel distance on his Q. Just something like that. Like, because right now...
Every sweep?
Yeah. Maybe that's too much, and maybe something would have to be toned down with that, but like something like that would make it so the hero actually feels... I mean, the hero doesn't have a way of getting to you other than just straight running at you and slash.
I feel like it'd be cool if maybe his stun had a longer reach or something, but I think if you gave him longer reach in all 3 hits, that would be insane.
Maybe. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if that would make him overpowered, like or more overpowered than the people in chat seem to think he is already. But that would at least make his like engage more consistent in my eyes. But once again, I don't enjoy the hero. I'm not good at him, so maybe I'm biased.
That's fair. Okay, so we're gonna watch the Stitches video and talk about him, but I just want to hear Cloakin say large lad because
I think we all do.
for the Terror of Darkshire, the dev team wanted to put more focus on the warrior's utility while leaning into the in-your-face feel of his
Did
gameplay.
I miss it?
That, of course, means more hook
Like somewhere
talent,
in the
while
middle,
also bolstering
like
and
towards the-
refocusing other areas
towards
of
the
his
start
skill.
of when
Take a
they
look.
start talking about gameplay.
Stitches' trait, Vile Cleaver, has
Is it-
been retooled
is it right at the
into
beginning?
a more aggressive ability. Previously, Stitches would spread vile gas to
I remember
nearby
it showed
enemies
during like a
whenever he
Braxis
took
clip.
damage.
I don't remember when.
With this update, Stitches will spread
I don't know
vile
why I have
gas
the mental
when
image of
using
it being on
basic attacks
Braxis.
against
That's
his
just
foes.
how my head works.
Continuous attacks to enemies will increase the
Maybe
duration
I'm
of
an
vile
idiot.
gas.
You know what? I probably missed it. It's fine. Let's just talk about Stitches. Talk about his trait first. No longer does it function when you get hit, but it's every time that you use an auto attack, it's going to splash out. Obviously, this is something that's going to allow him to feel a little bit more aggressive, where you can go on the offense. And also, I think I don't know how high it stacks. We don't know his talents. We don't know the specifics, but they said consecutive attacks will stack up the poison further. I'll start with you on this one, Cattle. What do you think about it?
He looks cool. I like slam slowing, like at least on the front part. I like that they're going a little away from like long range hooks being your main source of like power in the game, and just it looks like they're trying to make it more consistent. And I've always wanted him to have a talent that applies gas on auto attack, and I mean now it's his passive, so that just feels fun to me. I hope there's some sort of like, I hope they have something to do like with his passive, like some talents that you can get more out of it. But it looks cool.
To my knowledge, there's already a 7 that applies it on auto, but it doesn't splash on auto. Maybe I'm an idiot. Let me check.
There's a slow at 7, health regen, a cooldown.
7 definitely has like one.
Yes.
No, sorry, a 4. I think maybe it's one of the. I think you have. It's you either take the auto applies it or the slam applies it. If I remember correctly. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're.
Well, I'll look it up real quick. If I'm an idiot, I'll be proven wrong shortly.
I mean, just fundamentally, though, I think it's really nice that he actually has a tool to follow up on his own hook. The slow being baseline on his W is going to feel really good because he can actually, have that follow up and then kind of do some damage. Seems like he's got some way better clear when it comes to things, so he's probably going to be labeled as a bruiser if I had to guess. But it also looks like they want him to be, very much trudging in the front line. So who knows?
All right. So I just remembered upon looking it up, it was a talent he used to have on 4, and they removed it for restorative fumes. So that's what that was. Either that or I'm super idiot.
I think you used to have it.
Yeah, it sounds right.
I mean, as you said, I mean, is it my turn or Cal? You got
Yeah,
one?
go for it, man.
I'm good.
I mean, as you said, keyword I think from what you just said was consistency, which I really like. Like the hero is very feast or famine. You hit hooks and get kills, and he's a god. You don't hit hooks, you sit back and you're useless because you can't walk up and tank because your kit relies on you being like positioned behind your team. And I don't know, it's just kind of, you have these two slightly contradictory parts of your kit where like one part really wanted you to just YOLO in and run it down, and the other part wanted you to stay as far back as possible. And I don't know, there was a lot of just kind of this like problem with his kit that made the hero super like either you were JPL and you were a god, or you're missing hooks and you're terrible, and your team wonders why you pick Stitches. So giving him baseline slow on the W was a good way to start with that. I'm assuming the shortening of the hook means that they're going to do, like they said, they're going to make talents for the hook. So they're trying to make that more of a consistent CC ability rather than like I hope they don't take away too much of what's kind of so unique about hook, but still they're trying to make it a little bit more consistent than just max range fishing hooks winning the game.
I assume they'll remove fishing hook, but who knows?
Likely. Personally, I just like it because of that. It might take away a little bit of what people like about the hero, which is those god fishing hooks from full screen, like a full screen away, winning the game for your team. It will take away that part of him most likely, but in exchange for more consistency and a more legitimacy, there's like more legitimate reason to pick him and actually put him up front. I'm completely happy with that. I am just worried with, as you said, the way they made his trait work made him seem less of a tank and more of like an offlaner. So I'm curious if they're gonna make him try to do that whole thing where they make him like both an offlaner and a tank, and then overbalance him and make him a broken offlaner. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
no, I'm excited, and I think these changes definitely like allow Stitches to be more of a frontliner rather than, as I said, sitting like far back, hiding like in the middle of your team, trying to hit max range hooks, which I love. I appreciate that.
Overall, I think everyone's very excited about it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks very fun. Cattle already invented a way to run down Stitches and never die and just do all of the AoE damage, and now we get an entire hero built around that. If Blaze was me talking to the devs, I can only imagine Cattle was talking to the devs about Stitches.
I think his play was talking to the devs about Stitches, the way that he just kind of ran it down. But no, it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, though, we know very little about it. They showed the video. They didn't give us numbers. They didn't give us if there's any cooldown changes. We don't know the new talents. We know a few talents, right? He's got like a Burning Rage off the hook. He's got the, I don't know if it's level 20 where he can't be slowed or stunned. 16 or 20. It's a late game talent regardless. It's 20, yeah. So that'll like that with Putrid Bile, theoretically, just really charging in, forcing the fight, getting a big slam could feel super meaningful. Will the other, radius and range and damage slam talents be there? There will be something. We just don't know what yet. Cooldown reduction on hook, we know that's a thing. That's cool. Shorter hook, obviously, means less big plays, but I still think it's interesting and different enough from like a Garrosh toss and stuff because you can still pull people through a wall and win a team fight from that. And on some maps, I think he's going to feel still insane. Like I can imagine like Braxis, for example. I could see some really nice Stitches opportunities on that map, especially with him being probably stronger baseline. So cool. I guess we got a few other. We kind of did talk about the Stitches rework before going through a little bit more patch notes. I thought you were like disgusted by something, like talking about non-tanks. You're like, oh god, this is non-tank discussion.
Only Orphea.
Ooh. Because she got buffed. Okay, well we can talk about Orphea because she did get some buffs, right?
She definitely got buffed in this patch.
And Jaws got nerfed, but I think that's definitely justified.
So what they did was literally actually what I hoped for and what a lot of people were asking for, which is they removed her like one-shot full screen potential, or lowered it at least. Longer cooldown on Jaws, and I don't like what they did to Lurking Terror, but I guess that's the healthy way to fix that. I guess I don't know. It makes the talent kind of useless in my mind. But basically, they made her like the way people were playing Orphea before this patch, and the best way to play her was basically you played her like a Kel'Thuzad. You didn't have to stack. Like you just hit 10 and you just started one-shotting people from full screen. So they removed that in favor of giving her more consistent damage and making it so she has more than just one build path.
Right.
By trying to buff on point. So the changes are almost certainly a buff and are going to make, I think they're going to bring up her win rate a lot because her win rate was already climbing over time as people got better.
It's pretty
but
common.
I think this is, oh, sorry.
It's just fairly common for these kind of ranged assassins, I feel, that are a little bit combo oriented. But
I think the changes were healthy, albeit maybe a little bit than I think she needed. I honestly thought she was in a really strong place beforehand. I thought they honestly just needed to... I thought they could have raised... I thought raise Crushing Jaws, cooldown, do something about the one-shot combo, and then just like buff on point in her Q build. But they also buffed the baseline Q and autos. So I think the hero is going to be quite the menace now, personally, but I think she's in a better, healthier place where she can't just full screen one-shot people. So I'm happy about that. Or at least can't do it as easily.
Cattle? How do you feel about Orphea?
Yeah, I agree overall. I like the changes. I even like I don't mind the 16 change, just like the double chomp was just like a little oppressive damage-wise, but I feel like a lot of the time, especially like in like the higher level games, you can't really get in for chomp always, so that the 16 talent just like sharing a cooldown, but having like a low enough cooldown to use it every W is kind of cool, because you can now just like use your E as a ranged chomp always, like even just for poke. So I don't mind that change. And I mean, yeah, the Crushing Jaws cooldown nerf was good, because right now you just kind of throw it out randomly whenever, and if you miss, it's like, okay, whatever, it's up again in 25 pretty much. And now it at least has like, you want to make sure you land it, and you can't just throw it out randomly. So I think the changes were good, and I like them overall. She looks like she'll be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I was part of the few that believed she was really good before the patch, so I'm obviously happy to see buffs.
Hello, weapons. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah, no, She's fun. She's super fun. Obviously, seeing her in the hands of a top level player. I think Crowan, I saw on Twitter, has like a 9-game win streak with Orphea or something in Hero League. So it's gonna be.
He realized he had to pass me up because I was shaming him. I had an 100% win rate on Orphea, and then I made that guide. And I was like, all right, I'm going on vacation for Thanksgiving. You have to pass me up before I come back. And he did it. So he gets to play Orphea now. We're not role swapping. Unlucky. Feels bad.
Feels bad. You want that in your life? You want to be the new ranged?
Only for Orphea.
Okay.
The hero's, as you said, the hero's fun as heck. So
she is very fun. Kyle Date's designer for her killed it. He really did. And been playing her a lot. All right, what about Kerrigan? We're skipping Nova. Going straight up to Kerrigan. These changes, I'm a little surprised. I mean, Kerrigan's good, sure. But these seem kind of harsh in some ways.
Yeah. You want to go, Cal?
Hers I kind of skipped over. I'm still kind of.
I mean, it's attack damage down, healing blades down. It's a lot less burst. I mean, she's gonna get sight.
The short of this is they were trying to make it so that there's more than just one Kerrigan build. Because literally, what happened is she was blatantly overpowered because her talents were too strong. They nerfed all the talents, and the talents were still so strong that one build still literally not a single talent changed in that build, which should show you exactly how strong it was. That being said, it put her in a really balanced place. Like, I think where she is right before this patch was pretty healthy. The thing about that was she only had one build. Literally, if you didn't go that build, she was terrible. If you want that build, she was pretty good. Like, nothing amazing, but pretty good. So they're trying to balance her away from that, but I think they were way too heavy-handed. It's gonna make her very weak to me personally. Like, the basic attack nerf.
Yeah, these are big numbers. Like, these aren't like small drop-offs. Like, this is very meaningful for a hero like Kerrigan, and it's like, wow, she just got slapped down.
Yeah, unless for some reason the Q build with that level 4 talent, like, someone takes off with that, I can't really see. I feel like this was too heavy-handed towards pushing that, and I feel like they didn't give her enough for how much they took away. So.
Yeah, it looks like they like shifted her damage more into her E explosion than W itself.
But is she ever going to exist in that kind of sustained, sticking on you type of hero?
That's the problem.
Like,
just
no.
Like if she's able to stay in that long, she was going to win anyways.
Yeah.
And the nerfs aren't like very effective, and now it's just like if you only like jump in with a Q, throw your spells, and then run, it's like you do a lot less than before. So looks like pretty big nerf, which kind of sucks because she was already pretty niche at this point. But I mean, in the situation she's good in, she'll probably still be good. So overall, I don't think this was too much. Yeah. I just don't know if it was needed at this point.
Down to Hanzo. I think this is a big sigh of relief for a lot of people. He can no longer super efficiently race bosses. He became a almost must pick in many drafts with the map that was oriented around a boss. And he will no longer get any cooldown reduction with never outmatched except for heroic targets. You'll now get 3 seconds instead of 2.5, but again, that's not going to help you out doing PvE stuff, minion wave, you name it. He'll still be good versus racing if he wants to, but not like the best in the game. And
yeah.
The only thing I want to say is, Blizzard, stop giving Hanzo AD. I say this as every tank player that has had a freaking Hanzo walk the entire map just auto-attacking you for redemption, literally doing nothing but right-clicking. It is the most infuriating thing. The hero did not need AD. I like what you did without never. Thank you, that needed to happen. But for the love of God, you did not need to give this hero more AD. He is not, like, he doesn't need to be made into the suit, like, another Rainer or another auto attacker right now. He's got other niches that he fills in. He's already a good hero, please.
So then he's got Giant Slayer late game. He can get the armor reduction.
Giant Slayer actually looks pretty solid now.
2% with the additional 2%. AD slacked on top of him. Like, that's
just
a lot.
Please stop giving this hero AD. Just stop. Please. Literally, even Snitch, a Hanzo player, was complaining about giving Hanzo AD. Like, why?
Yeah, it seems suspect. We'll see. We'll see how that feels. I think the level 7 change is good just for the health of draft and all of that, but maybe Hanzo feels like he does a little bit too much with each auto attack nowadays. His brother lost a full range, down from 5.5 to 4.5 range, so he's gonna really not feel like as much, because Genji's a ranged assassin right now, right? He's just full on a ranged assassin with unlimited mobility. Well, he's gonna have to step up a lot closer to be able to do that damage, which is just, you know, it's
Wonderful.
a good start. Yeah, it's a good start.
That change made me so happy. Like, I'm letting the Hanzo one slide. Hanzo can attack me from however much range all he wants, as long as Genji isn't autoing me anymore, because that was even more annoying. Just like the fact that Genji could just like trade against every hero just because his range is so long and just kite you around.
3 options to mitigate damage. 3.
Now the ranged assassins at least can't, or they can outrange him, which is great.
No. Another one that we noticed is he can't outrange Garrosh as well as he could before, which is really nice. He also struggles to take some of the fountains that he used to be able to kill. Like on Battlefield of Eternity, he can still take the middle well, but he can't actually take the top and bottom well by himself anymore.
Over the wall. That's really good.
So I think that was an unintended change, but it's a very welcome one nonetheless. I don't know. Cat already said it. I'm very happy about the change.
I've eaten so many shurikens as tank. It's just so annoying. Like if you run into him on a rotate, it's like, well, I have to run away while he autos me like 30 times. I'm just eating so much damage. It's so annoying. And it's over, finally.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
I feel. But no, this patch, I mean, you said it. This is the best patch we've had in a long time. And I think we all can agree on that, because I don't know about Alarak. I honestly do not play this hero at all. Does this mean anything to you guys?
Change was meaningless.
Yeah, okay.
Literally nothing changed about the hero.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen.
Support's definitely got some changes.
Yes. Tyrande got some nerfs, which are definitely justified. Asmodan, who cares?
Nerfs.
Maybe nerfs.
Maybe nerfs.
And
The jury's out on that.
We've had some level 1 fights where level 1 Elun's chosen. You go on someone and it
Tyrande.
doesn't really matter because they have like 2,000
it's
extra health.
Like as a tank, I'm happy that like I have at least 6 levels before my Muradin or my Garrosh becomes made useless. But like Elun's chosen level 1 is still
A little strong.
pretty strong. So, and not to mention once you hit 7, it's not really a nerf anymore. It's the same thing. So it's like I'm happy about it as a tank, but I feel like this didn't really fix the problem with the hero personally. I feel like this was more just making it so that you have at least 6 levels before she becomes broken.
She still seems insane.
Yeah, I don't really see this as much of a nerf, to be perfectly honest.
Well, they did say we're still evaluating Celestial Attunement and on the design side, and may make larger changes at a later date. So they're definitely not done with her. This was a early fix. I agree. Elun's Chosen is going to just give her a lot of healing options early game. Being able to throw that on the tank, and then yes, you know, not having your levels, we're not having a level until level 7.
I may have had a game today where I was Garrosh and I literally 5 piece damage for about 4 seconds while Tyrande was just Elun's Chosening me up, and I did not die. And this was level 1. I don't know how it happened, but something happened, and I just wasn't dead, and the team is dead.
Seems good. You do know that Tyrande's my favorite hero in the game, right? So I'll never talk bad about her. I'll always say that she's fine, she's balanced. Let's dodge this bullet and stop talking about Tyrande, because I could talk about her for days. Let's see. Stukov, additional range on the lurking arm. I mean, that's fine. The potion change is nice. They're going to cost, you know, additional 5 mana here for Deckard Cain, so it's going to bring him down just a little bit. They call 1 additional second on the cooldown is very meaningful. When a big part of I feel Deckard Cain's power comes to his ability to go to a point and set up, and that is just far less viable now.
Well, what I think these changes were more aimed at changing, and it was this and the white main change, because both here, is both of these healers had this thing where if you went on them, the white man's below. Yeah. If you went on them, they would just hold Alt Q, and you had to effectively kill like 3 health bars worth of HP. So white main, they made it so you can't spam Q as fast, And Deckard, you can't spam Q as fast. Though, as was pointed out, 1 second is actually really only half a second because of Deckard's trait. The basic idea here to me was these heroes are now much worse at keeping one target up against burst, which should, well, at least it should be Deckard's weakness. Deckard doesn't have a cleanse. Deckard's not a burst healer. He shouldn't be able to deal with that very well. So I like these changes because I think they made the heroes a lot like less frustrating to play against. Where like you have someone diving them and they just walk away holding Alt Q and you just can't kill them.
Right.
So I think it helped with that, but time will tell exactly how if it maybe causes problems. I don't think the white main change answered the real problems with that hero, but I think it did address something that was very frustrating about both her and Deckard. So
at least we kind of have the confirmation they're looking at them. Cattle, how do you feel?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Just it's nice that it takes a little longer to set up potions. Like overall, I don't know. I'd have to do the math on it. It looks like it's like a slight healing nerf, not too much because it heals more on the longer cooldown. But at least now it takes Deckard like 5 seconds longer to set up 5 potions, which is a pretty big deal. Especially if he has no one like giving him his passive proc.
True. Yeah, I think that'll be helpful. Anna lost some healing. She got her changes recently. I feel like she's been performing better. They decided to bring her down a little bit. Well, I mean, whatever. Maybe she's pub stomping. I don't know. And that is the whole patch. Urel?
Well, Urel, they made her slightly less sustaining in soloing.
That's good.
I guess that's.
I mean, not gonna change much, but at least now she can lose matchups if she can't hit heroes.
Yeah, it's a minor nerf, but it might make a difference in matchups, which is nice. So.
Oh, cool. Anything you guys wanted to see that's not here? Other than the obvious like XP changes, Sylvanas rework.
Yeah, we won.
Not too much. Maybe like Zera tool level 16, 20 spike is a little
too much.
I'd rather have him be like a little stronger early, a little weaker later, than just have like the constant like, he's 16, we can't play together anymore. It just feels a little crazy as a talent just because it's literally like it doubles the DPS. Pretty strong, and I don't know. But it's okay overall. I don't think there's like too much standing out anymore.
Yeah. I don't know too much about like balance changes. For me, I want them to put other maps in HL, like other than just the 10 we have. You don't know how hard it is to actually get practice on any of the maps that aren't the 10 right now because we're off season and we're about to like vote on maps. So I want to see Garden and maybe in Hanamura and some of these others in HL just so we can have time to practice them and figure them out because like I don't know, everyone has different opinions on them and scrims and stuff like that. And I just want to actually get some time though maybe even that's stupid because EXP changes are literally going to change all of the maps anyways. So
yeah, that's my big thing. I think those change a lot of stuff. Like I'm on I hate current Sky Temple, but I think that the experience changes change a ton of how the map plays, so it might be fine.
Well, yeah, it's like I mean, and then there's others like I think like I really like Tomb of the Spider Queen. It's one of my favorite maps, but after the changes go through, there's a chance it just becomes pick Azmodan, Nazebo, Ragnaros, and just scale because no matter what the enemy does, they're never going to get ahead of you in the XP, and as long as you make it to 16, you win. So I don't know. There's the XP changes could really change how we think of maps and how they're currently balanced. I think the only one that's probably not going to get changed is Towers because Towers doesn't really operate with catapults anyways. So I think Towers is actually going to be like the exact same. Which case, I'm fine with it. It's a good map, though. I kind of like diversity, but I like changing things, but I don't know.
What about a larger map like Cursed Hollow? What do you see the biggest change being there? Is it forcing globals? Like, what's the impression?
I'm scared of the dawn of the Vikings.
Yeah.
That's all I'm worried about.
Yeah.
The thing this current change is going to make really strong is split soaking. And heroes like Vikings and Abathur that can split soak at basically no cost to their ability to contest the objective. Not to mention the fact that objectives don't give EXP, so if you ever get an EXP lead from Vikings, the enemy has no way of getting it back. Like, they can't.
Yeah.
Normally-
hero kills. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, yes, but hero kills aren't a consistent thing you can count on.
No.
Like, if the way the game works right now is often if someone gives the objective to soak, whatever loss you get in EXP from the soaking, you can then recoup by taking structures and the game's back to even. But now heroes like Vikings, if they get an EXP lead and they are taking mercs, which now apparently give more EXP, and heaven forbid that you don't actually send someone over to kill the merc before it dies to a tower,
You lose all that XP. Yeah.
you're in a hole and there's no way of getting back in the game, EXP wise. So
That's a good point.
Yeah, cursed is like scary. I feel like I feel like they're gonna have to change something about the map, and I like wouldn't be surprised if they did. It just feels like on that map specifically now, if you do get a curse as your team, it's like if you group to push down a fort, that just seems like suicide almost, because you're gonna fall so far behind in experience because you're gonna miss all the waves.
It's
The other
super
team
weird.
is so
Like,
real quick when it comes in, and then you also get nothing off of pushing that building, which means it almost feels like on cursed it's gonna be better to just not get the curse, which means they have to like change the objective somehow.
yeah, it's very interesting. You know, just the entire map situation. You think changing the game so fundamentally, where the game has always been pushing people towards going to an objective to team fight, right? It's always been what Heroes is, and everything about these XP changes with most maps is saying, don't team fight. Make sure you're doing everything. Make sure you're playing a normal MOBA where you're in all lanes, last hitting, in this case soaking, getting your experience, because otherwise you're fundamentally just going to be behind and you're going to lose. And it's I don't know. We have no idea. Blizzard has said nothing post BlizzCon as to if it's going to be exactly the build they showed us at BlizzCon. Maybe they got feedback from you guys. I'm sure they talked to you guys, right?
I mean, I know me as well as a lot of other players I know sent feedback to the devs about our worries and stuff, and they have like a big copy pasta that they basically sent to all of us, but it basically goes something like, we've heard your concerns, we tried everything you said you think is going to be broken, we're not finding it to be broken, we're going to probably go through with what we have, and if on release the game encourages not fighting the objective, we'll do changes. And that's basically what they said. So I mean, at this point we're just waiting to see. So like real talk, this is where I just like want to just give it to us so we can test it. Like if you actually believe in it, please give it to us as soon as possible. Let us test it and we'll see for ourselves. Like, because if what you're saying is true, we'll find it out very quickly by just trying it. But I don't know. I just, at this point, I don't want to like discuss it anymore. I just really just want to try it so I can figure out everything.
Did you get to play it at BlizzCon at all? Or you guys were obviously busy competing, but no.
I got, it was insignificant because like the changes were made to make QM and stuff like that healthier. So yeah, you play QM.
They will. I mean, honestly.
They will.
Yeah, they will for sure.
No, like the changes are built in a system, assuming both teams fight. Like the way I see it, the way the game works right now, before this changes, both teams fight the objective. One team loses the fight, they lose heroes, they go down a level. The other team gets the objective, they take a fort, they go down 2 levels, and from there the game snowballs. That's what this is trying to address, right?
Right.
It's not built at competitive where a team just gives the objective for an EXP. And so that's why I'm scared. But like there's literally nothing we can tell from the demo we played at BlizzCon because it wasn't what we're afraid of, basically.
And it's weird because like, just to kind of address chat, we skipped the HGC format. We just had the perfect segue to start talking about maps and talking about the XP changes. So we're kind of in that area right now, and we'll come back to the HGC format last. But just when you think about this design, it is going to be healthier for the average player, right? Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that this is actually good for the game. But we're doing it many years into the game where the game already has X number of maps, and I almost feel like this change is going to force them to literally start over with the maps. When it comes to competitive play, I think maps are going to have to be looked at objectively with zero expectations. We're starting with no maps that are HGC ready, and we have to figure out what the pro maps work in this new format are, because it's that big of a change. And that's kind of what I want to talk about for the HGC map pool. And I actually was very hopeful that you guys, and I've now learned that you do not, had access to, say, a private server for this specific purpose, because hearing that you guys are voting on a map pool when you have zero idea of what you're voting on right now is fundamentally just, I mean, disastrous. It's a recipe for disaster. If you guys don't know what's good and what's not good, and you can't know without playing, I hope you'll have time, at least a few weeks, to play the new patch.
Yeah, it should be enough time.
Okay.
I mean, it depends how radically they change the maps, and
Yeah.
but I think they'll probably give us time. It just depends when they release. But well, I mean, the second they release it, we'll all be tearing through it and trying to break every map in half. So
Chaos OS is saying PTR is Monday with the changes. If that is true, then that is very good.
that would be very nice indeed.
Is that your cat?
Yeah.
That being said, we talked about Cursed and the concerns there. You mentioned you don't like Sky now, but it might be good then. Are there any outliers? Could this make a map that is terrible, like across the board, good, in your opinion?
For me, Sky Temple.
That's just Sky.
Yeah. No,
I dislike how Sky gets like, it just turns into black hearts when one team gets ahead.
It does,
And if you
it
like
does,
get too good of an early temple phase, you can just like lose the game. And
Yeah.
at least now, like if you get like an early hard camp and the temple kills the fort, like you haven't instantly lost it, which is great. And then the map should actually be fun. I don't know. I've played some games of New Garden now in scrims, and I played like some unranked and stuff, and I don't know. It just seems like a solid, like, it's like not a toxic map. It's just like a pretty standard map. And I
The
think
New Garden?
Garden feels pretty fun. Just
think
a
it's
lot
great.
of mercs.
I think it could
little too many
replace.
mercs for my taste.
I could replace Cursed, is what I'm thinking, which
Well,
is pretty interesting.
One thing I'm worried about is like the kata changes are going to influence single lane objectives maps versus triple lane objective maps. Because on a triple lane objective map, kata, if you can get katas in all three lanes, it's more impactful than having katas in, say, one lane. Just because map pressure at multiple points is going to be more valuable. So like on a map like Garden or Alterac or something, if Alterac goes in, getting katas could like getting the first objective. If you can take down multiple forts, it could mean the katas are more valuable than, say, like Infernal Shrines, where you take one lane, and getting one lane of katas is arguably a disadvantage early game, to be honest. So I honestly have no idea how these maps are going to play out right now. Like I've got so many.
You're saying it's a disadvantage to have katas early game on Alterac because they're tanky?
No.
Just like they don't need minions.
Oh, okay.
So what it is on a map that has a single lane objective, like Infernal, if you go and you take a fort early game, the enemy team can then freeze the lane because of the cattle and the kata, and the kata's going to deny the cattle. Sorry, looking at catapult. The catapult will actually deny minions from its own team. So if you only get one lane of katas, it's arguably a disadvantage because the enemy can then freeze close to the wall and then slowly eke out an EXP lead. And I just talked about how I think in this new system, EXP leads are impossible to get back.
Very difficult.
So, I don't know. As you said, every map's going to have to be reapproached new, and I'm expecting a lot of maps like Tomb to just not be what they were, and a lot of maps. I mean, Sky Temple is probably the best example Cattle gave, where it's like I hate it right now, but maybe it ends up being one of the best maps in the next patch. So.
It's going to be interesting on Alterac just because it's not a catapult. It's the melee minions, which basically, if left alone, they just build massive waves. Yeah. And in the pro scene, that's probably fine because, you know, someone will go there to soak that experience. But I can imagine for the average player where they decide to neglect a lane, those lanes are just going to, you get like 14 archers in the back that the tower is going to just melt. And it's going to be interesting to see that whole dynamic shift for the community in general. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I guess the only other thing with maps, I guess, that is worth discussing is the fact that mercenary camps have been kind of unified in terms of the way they work. Capping gives experience. Some used to be last hit would give experience. They have unified that across all camps from what I've been told. So that is a very good change for the game, and it's also going to be consistent, I think, for experience as well.
Yeah. I mean, Volskai's camp's already kind of worked like that, where the cap gives the XP, so I actually think that's healthy for like a generalization, but it's basically put in place. The thing I'm worried about with the mercs is, as we just said with the Vikings and stuff, if you take mercs and let them split during an objective and someone doesn't answer the mercs before they die, will that become a problem? In fact, would it even become a strategy to pick like a Garrosh and like into the fray your own mercs and to deny EXP? Like, are you even gone as silly, radical as that? And I don't know.
I mean,
It feels like there could be some wild strats. Like, it even feels like there might be situations where it's like it's better to leave a fort alive and low and then not kill it until you can actually kill the keep in the same lane. So then you just like go all in on one lane and push that down rather than like opening up the map everywhere. It's better to like focus one lane potentially, because a catapult every wave is pretty good, but every 3 waves is just like so much potential to just like build up a giant wave. They bring in one hero with good AoE, they one-shot it, pick up like 3 waves of soak.
But it's still going to be interesting when you have an objective on the other side of the map, and you try to get that strategic third wave to be able to push in, and so on and so forth. Like, it's going to change the dynamic a lot, and I think it's impossible to tell exactly how things are going to play out. But somebody in chat just asked, Holy Online says, what do you think about comeback mechanics? And we kind of already addressed this, TLDR. The comeback mechanics are going to be very reliant on hero kills, and that is, at the highest level, something that is just not going to happen that often. Getting picks is a very, rare occurrence against, safe play, and with the solo lane meta being what it is currently, of just safe off tanks, essentially, that are nigh impossible to kill, I think it's going to be a struggle to come back in XP if you're miss soak and such.
Yeah, I think soak's what, I don't know, it kind of feels like wave clear is going to be very dominant, and everyone's just, as long as you soak everywhere, like, if you have to back up and give up a fort, like, it doesn't really matter. It definitely feels like the game's going to be way less snowbally. Like, the one game I played, I feel like if I had played the game on, like, live, it was like basically a quick match, I would have been up like 6 or 7 levels, like insane to that extent. But like that game we were up like so insanely, but it was just like a 3-level difference, which definitely means like, because all those buildings don't really do anything anymore. So it's just going to be interesting to see how like they adjust experience to make up for that.
I mean, the system is designed to keep people closer. It's not designed to take care of when one team gets behind. So if it just like, as Cattle said, it's going to be much harder to open multi-level leads. I doubt you're going to see anything 5-level lead on this patch. Like, honestly, even a 2-3 level lead's probably going to be a rarity, even in competitive play. Like, even if a team's getting smashed. But at the same time, if you get behind 2 levels, the game's over. Like, that's how I see it. So I don't know.
I asked this last time, and I want to ask you guys: do you think it would be dangerous to increase the amount of experience earned from hero kills?
I'd personally like to see it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Right now getting kills isn't worth anything unless you are a bot or 2 can get something off of it. Literally, level 1 you could ace the enemy team and you'd be up. And if the enemy caught all of the waves of that soak, like they didn't miss a single wave of soak, you'd be up to like 3-4 solo level. Which I don't know, maybe is good, but it's like comparatively, if you kill the enemy solo laner when he's going to the solo lane and deny 1 full XP, you're up basically the same amount of EXP.
Yeah.
So right now kills are like a means to an end. If they're gonna make the means less rewarding, I'd be fine with upgrading kill XP. Yeah. But I think do it too much and then you get blowouts. But I don't know what the balance is there personally.
Because we're just talking about, like, if you miss out on XP, the risk reward is often, okay, we're going to take a structure to mitigate that experience, and that's a strategic option. And if the strategic option now is kill a hero, that's far more difficult to do. So I'm thinking maybe it should be a little bit more rewarding as a result. Again, you do too much, then team fights are going to feel super swingy if you wipe, and that's obviously a dangerous area. But I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Any other thoughts on maps and the HGC map pool? I guess we talked about it. Obviously, it's not something where we could list a map pool of what you guys would dream of because we don't know. I mean,
on the if we were talking current patch, I'd be like something like Kirsten Braxis out, Garden Alterac in, or something like that. But I just can't say.
So a lot of people in chat would actually probably be surprised to hear you say cursed out. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so cursed out for, I mean, yeah, 3 reasons. 1, super easy to cheese. The map is so big. If the enemy is doing anything, the best response is to trade rather than answer them. If enemy's doing their boss, you're not getting to their boss in time. You might as well take your boss. Enemy's taking a fort. You're not getting to them in time. You might as well take their fort, the other side of the map. So it discourages fighting and it encourages trading. 2, maps RNG. 1 wrong tribute spawn can just screw you. Like it's happened in HGC games. It's really annoying. And 3, it's the only map in the game that can end in like 5 minutes. If you sink a curse and a boss, the game's over. Like we've actually won, I believe, an HGC game in like 6 minutes. And
yeah,
if you know how to do that, the map just breaks. Like heroes like Hanzo and Abathur just break the map as well. So it's like map's too easy to break.
Hanzo not anymore.
Hanzo not anymore, thank God.
Not as much. He'll still clear boss pretty fast. He just won't be able to like solo or duo it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So a lot of people have been talking about HGC as a whole. There's been a lot of discussion. And now, if you weren't here at the top of the show, we did kind of just try to ease everyone's concerns with the fact that there is no announcement yet. This is the same situation we were in exactly 1 year ago. No announcement had been made yet. And also, outside of China, there have been no announcements for the other Blizzard games for the esports scene as to what is happening. That being said, I still think there is it warrants a discussion as to what kind of format and structure would best suit Heroes of the Storm in its current state. And I want to preface this by talking about some players. We'll cite King Caffeine on saying Heroes felt like a shitty part-time job. Because, and I think the reason he had that mentality was because he played online and he never got to go to LAN. And I feel like for a lot of players, without getting the LAN, they're not getting that refresh. I feel like having all the teams meeting in person, interacting, it's a reward, but it's also reinvigorating. And it also gives you guys the opportunity to meet each other in person more often, meet more people, mingle, and as a whole become a better scene. And in the current structure for HGC, we do not get that. You guys don't play on LAN, you guys play online, and then you go to, how many LANs did you go to this year, Ishbu? 4. And that is the maximum that you could have possibly gone to. And that's a lot more than a lot of games would have, but in the old format, there would be more teams per region that would get to experience maybe 1 or 2, right? And I think that's kind of the difference. And Cattle, I want to start with you on this since you've played in both formats. Which do you prefer and why?
I feel like I still prefer the current format, just with like qualifying to lands and just having like better lands overall, like quality wise. But I definitely can't deny that I miss like the old like Burbank NA only lands, and like that was like when the game was first growing as a scene, and like I have a lot of really great memories from those lands. They were just like, I don't know, it was just like more on the fun side rather than the serious side, I guess, which is kind of what the game has developed into. So,
but which is better, right? Because it felt more communal back then, I feel, because that was a lot, again, 40 North American players plus coaches plus casters plus staff meeting at least twice a year, and new teams were born from those kind of events, right? Friendships were born from those kind of events. And I feel like that's really tough to create in the current HGC format.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the amount of people I talk to now, like player-wise, and like they like quick match or just hang out with or something, has gone down by like, I don't know, it's more than halved. Like I pretty much during the season talk to like my team and then like 2 or 3 other people that I'm like closest with, but like in the older days, it would be like you would talk to way more people. Everyone would just be better friends overall, just because you have more time to interact with each other. And yeah, I don't know which one's better. The latter is more fun for sure. This one, like the current format, is more serious. I think both have upsides and downsides.
I think what he just said, they both have upsides and downsides, is probably best way of putting it. And are you asking us which one's better for players or which one's like healthier for the scene, or what's the question?
There's so many angles. I mean, it's just your personal opinion at the end of the day.
So my personal opinion is this current scene is great if you're a top 2 team in your region, or top 3 if you're EU and Korea. Otherwise, it's horrible. Now it's not horrible for people that just want to sit around and like.
Let me just kind of hop in and take that, because I think it's horrible for team 3 through 8. I think open division is the best case scenario. I think it's a flawless format. I think they nailed it. It's the right threshold for people to break in, like you. You got to climb through the ranks. The opportunity, like the amount of work needed and ethic needed is perfect. And then you've got the pro side that it just really feels like if you're not the top 2, it sucks.
I mean, I say this literally with an organization for sponsors, that talking with other people looking for their own orgs and sponsors and stuff like that. And you're seeing this a lot. Like, you only get an organization or sponsors under 2 conditions. One, you're a top 1 or 2 team. Every other team that's sponsored something below that has almost always regretted it. Or 2, you have a big streamer personality on your team. And that's why like teams like you get Zealots turning into Roll20. It wasn't because they get exposure because the HGC, is because Quacknix. Let's be completely honest. It was because Quacknix was
even Simplicity and Zuna, honestly. Like, yeah,
Simplicity and and at this point, you say Zuna. I think it was more honestly being a big streamer at that point.
Maybe. You look at Zuna's history though, and that's appealing to sponsors for sure.
But yeah, literally the way the current system works is if you're a top 2 team, you get lands, you get exposure, you get attention, you get fans. If you're not, either you literally have to sell yourself so hard to get any attention, because the HGC is going to give you none. So like, as I like, let me just put it this way. Look at like the NA bits. We have like Heroes Hearth, Tempo like right below us, and then everyone else way down here, like off my screen. Like, we got so much more exposure over the course of the year than anyone else, and it only like it was monstrous. Like, we our 2 teams, like the fact that both of us, I think we were the only 2 teams in NA that went to all 4 lands. So we got footage of us. We got high stakes matches with people there. We got to talk and meet with our fans in person. Like, that's the type of stuff that brands and sponsors and orgs and stuff care about, and it's not offered to 3/4 of the league. And so like, you have that issue and that conflict, which is shutting out so much sponsor interest. I get the like, we're going to finish this year, a year that we declared every team's going to be sponsored. We're going to finish this year with probably less sponsors than we started.
Agreed. And it's, you know, just to kind of throw this in there, obviously the intent and the design of HGC was more content, more consistent content, teams that are playing, teams that exist under an umbrella where they can bring them into the content of Twitch bits, yada, yada, yada. Good idea, but I think without that human experience, without the actual players being in a LAN environment, it's really hard to feel an attachment to just a handle, right?
I mean,
and go ahead.
But here's where we get some of that plus and minus. So plus is obviously like, the minus is obviously we don't get that personal attachment. People feel more attached to our casters than us. Like, literally, I've seen like Reddit threads and Twitter threads where a pro will say something and everyone will say, "Oh, you're just an idiot," and then a caster like Caldor or something will have to come up and justify him, which is to me, no offense to the casters, backwards. Like, I don't know, but then there's the plus to the current system, which is what our fan base wants. Because to be honest, a lot of our fan base, like HGC and HOTS, we don't have like a young fan base. We don't really have we don't have the Fortnite middle schoolers.
Not even
Like,
close.
let's
Yeah.
be honest.
No.
Our fan base is a bit older, and our fan base kind of likes the more consistent weekly content, which it just isn't something a tournament circuit would be able to provide. Like, tournament circuit is more high stakes. Like, the content you do get is higher stakes. It's more in person. It's more important. You feel more invested, but it comes so infrequently, it might not be able to satisfy a lot of HGC's current fan base.
Well, I think what would happen in the natural evolution of any game, or it would go back to what it was, and there would be more community events. So they wouldn't be big prize pools. You guys would be playing for pocket change on other weekends. $1,000 prize pool here, $1,000 prize pool there, and making $200 for that. And it would really force the income to be completely from sponsors and streaming, but obviously more events, stuff like that, more exposure might bring in more sponsors. Naturally, you can argue we had that format and we had more sponsors then, but it wasn't like crazy sponsors everywhere. So it's tough.
I don't pretend to know the answer, but all I can say is, like, the way the current system works, no one wants to invest in HOTS. No one wants to invest in the HGC right now, except in the top 2 teams in each region, because those are teams that get exposure.
Why would you?
Exactly.
Why would you? You wouldn't.
So it's either, once again, if you're a player, you either have to be a top 2 team, or you have to super market yourself a ton. At which point, why don't you just become a full-time streamer like Michael or Quacknix? Like, so
that's tough.
I don't know. Like, the way the league has problems, and I don't know the solutions. I don't know if swapping to an older tournament. I didn't play as much during the tournament circuit, like back in those days when everything was tournaments. I was a amateur player back then. I was trying to do it like as a fun, almost like as an activity while I was at college. So I can't speak for what's better, if it's better for the players, if it's worse. I don't know. I don't know it personally, but
Maddie B. Bad just posted in chat. What if they took the top 2 teams from each region and made a super league where it's 8 teams in California playing on land?
Oh my God. Well,
that's more of the same problem.
I mean, yeah.
But that's what Owl is. That's what Owl is.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Overwatch League is kind of. I guess
Overwatch League is exactly that. Boston is like all Koreans. New York is like all Koreans.
Yeah.
Like.
I mean, if that's the case, then you definitely have to foster good amateur scenes in each of them. Like, Overwatch League, like, needs to have its contenders and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like, any of these approaches might be more cutthroat to a lot of the other players, because not to call out a specific player on my team, but I know McIntyre he just got married. He's trying to settle down another life, and frankly, this current system with the online league is something he can still participate in, while if he was traveling frequently or having to do something, or having to move to California for something, he might not be able to continue playing. And
yeah, I can relate to that perfectly, because if I ever wanted to cast HGC, I would have had to move to California, and that's not an option for me. Same reason. But if you want to be the best in the world at something, sacrifices have to be made.
I mean, some players would move. Some players like Cattle already did move.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The short of it is, there doesn't seem to be a system where, like,
Snap retire says McIntyre in chat.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not like trying to put him down. That's literally.
But no, you're being real, dude. I get it.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to be the system that's going to be the best. If there's a matter of trying to get interest and money into HOTS, the current system does not work. Like, something else needs to be done. But if it's just a matter of trying to keep us as a sort of like more niche, like weekly thing that people want to keep coming back to seeing, then maybe HGC is the best thing, and maybe it's going to be better than this. So I don't know. Like, obviously, the ideal situation is we all move to California, we have a LAN league, and everyone, like, at that point, everyone's satisfied. Obviously,
it's not happening in the current.
It's not happening.
The dollar amount needed for that is far too high to justify based on the viewership and everything else within the league.
We need really big initial investors, and there's not really much reason we should be initially investing. So.
To me, based on the conversation, it sounds like you miss the old format, though.
I definitely felt a lot closer to other players in the past than now. Now it's just like I'm here to play to win.
Does it feel like more of a job now?
Oh, definitely. Like,
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's definitely, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a healthy thing, like for the quality of the scene and the quality of play you see. But yeah, it's definitely less, it's like less interactive for everyone, which is definitely like not the best thing, just because it pretty much means if you're not on one of the top teams that's like doing well, you're just less, I don't know. It's not even like a matter of motivation. Like, I'll use Michael as an example. Like, since it didn't look like he was going to be on a top 2 team, and you can't really like micromanage scrimming a ton and also growing yourself as a streamer, it's just better for him to stream, which means it like creates even more of a gap. Like, I feel like the overall quality of play after this roster apocalypse, with like a lot of people retiring, especially in NA and Korea, like I can't see like the overall quality not going down. Like the top teams might stay the same, but it definitely feels like everything's going to be more spread out again, which then like again adds more to the effect of, if I'm not going to do well and I have the option of growing my stream by investing more in that, I can just like cruise by in HGC, scrim 3 hours a day, not like really try that hard, and just grow my like streaming personality. Which means they need to find like some middle ground that still makes it worth it for the lower teams to really put effort in and actually like try to be competitive rather than just like kind of cruise by.
I mean, if I think something that they've been trying to do is they're trying to provide more like salary. Like, something they talked about was trying to provide slightly more salary for like the other players and take a little bit less out of winnings or something like that. Basically, decrease the discrepancy between the top and the bottom teams. But the fact of the matter is, the current system, like, you have 3 options. You're a top team, and you work your ass off for it, and you don't really have too much time to do other things. You can promote yourself to some degree, but you can't like full-time stream. You're on a bottom 6 team, and you have to work your ass off to promote yourself, and you have to be the top streamer, or you have to make a lot of content or something like that, despite scrimming 6 hours a day. Or you're just going to pull a simplicity, and you're just going to put in minimal effort and start looking for what you want to do next. So I like
it's tough because it's obviously best intentions. You know, giving that salary option of like $20,000 for a year if you manage to play it the whole year is it's a good chunk of change, but that is barely a part-time job in most of the country. And then they're relying on sponsors and stuff, and that's where we're talking about the problem. I think they thought from the beginning sponsors would be more attainable for these teams to remedy that.
Yeah, no, I think that was the intention as well. Like, a lot of people said, like, should they be paying teams more? And the short answer is Blizzard shouldn't be paying people more. Sponsors should be coming in and paying, because that's where sponsors need to be something. So it's like Blizzard paying teams more isn't going to do anything. Like, it's gonna make the league worse and worse to invest in, basically. So I don't know.
No.
I as I said, I don't know what the solution is at this point. I can only theorize at this point. So,
well, naturally, we don't know what's happening next year. People are saying there's going to be no more HGC. I think we got at least another solid year of Heroes Esports to come, at least. Obviously, who knows? But you know, looking at the trends of things, I'm personally for change going into the season. I feel like this season there's little to the last 2 years. How many actual weeks off are there? Like most of them are in winter. Between the season, there's almost no break, right? If you go out to the LAN, you guys have like a week off, then you play.
Yep.
That's a problem, right? It's got to feel like a problem with roster changes happening. If you guys wanted to make a roster change yourself,
I mean, I can tell you, coming back from BlizzCon, several players we were interested in reaching out to were already on teams, like locked in. So it's like,
Yeah, but that, I don't know. To me, that's more of. I agree with that. Just because, but I feel like that's more people just like approaching the entire like roster change period wrong. Like everyone seemed to be like scrambling to lock something down, and everyone. It's still like the same. At least in NA, it feels like people are too. I don't know. They take like switching teams too personally.
Yeah.
I feel like this whole period, especially since it's like not over, the fact that anyone has even decided on their full roster is a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with like exploring your options and looking around. And
from what I have heard, EU's system, and Mopsy I think is in the chat, so maybe you can confirm this for me, but from what I understand, EU kind of does like a top-down, where it's like Dignitas does tryouts, and then when Dignitas decides the roster, then the number 2 team decides the roster, then the number, like, it's kind of a trickle-down, because it's like anyone on those teams is willing to take an offer that's better on a better team than what they currently have, unless they have some other reason. So people take their more time with that type of thing, and decisions aren't made snap immediately. Which I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but I don't know. I wish people would have taken a little bit more time with this, because I definitely think there are a lot of, I don't know. I'm not going to speak too much on the actual roster change decisions,
we really
but
can't. It's not our place to speak.
Yeah, we can't go into that.
I mean, obviously, you guys are scrimming. Squads have clearly already formed based on what you said, but that is an announcement Blizzard will make when they are ready, based on the rules and regulations of the season. But yeah, no, it sounds like it's going to be a chaotic shift for the scene. And what you said earlier, Cattle, the community with HGC happening all the time, always playing against each other in these high stakes matches, does feel more closed off and does feel more butthurt when a change happens. You think about it back in the day, and people would swap teams, but it was just kind of like normal, because, well, it's a new event. Oh, well, we performed bad. Okay, let's try to shift things up, and a new squad would be born. And maybe there was some bad blood once in a while, but I don't know. I find it fascinating to think about it. And I guess we're lucky to have these other iterations of esports within our community over the years. So, anything else in the format of HGC that you guys, I mean, aside from the obvious, making it all land all season long?
I mean, what we said at the start definitely needs to apply here, which is there are people interested enough in keeping Heroes Esports off the ground. There's people that have said, we want more ways to invest in it. We want more ways to give money to the things. We want more ways to buy in. We want more ways to be invested. We want more coverage of players. There are people that want more from the scene. It's not like we're like everyone memes like dead game or dead scene or something, but there are people that are invested in it. And the fact that we're even having a show like this shows that, as I said at the beginning. But it's just, there doesn't seem to be those avenues right now. So my initial assumption when everything took so long to be announced was that it was just a matter of leadership changes in HOTS, and that we're going to have literally the exact same HGC announced, no changes, but it was just taking a while because leadership changed and they were just trying to figure out who to send it and whatnot. But it's taken long enough that I am curious if they're making big changes, and I think if the league is to have any long-term longevity, some sort of change might have to happen. Now, maybe it'll end up being for the worse. I don't know.
It's not a might. It's not a might. I think it's a must, personally. And it's tough. Like, there's obviously a lot of people that want to watch the show every single weekend. But I'll be honest with you guys. I watched so little HGC this year. Just because I come from a background where I like watching brackets. I like watching a team have a breakout performance. I like watching a team climb back from the lower bracket, and that narrative is far more compelling to me. So major events, super exciting, right? But beyond that, league's format is, there's so many sleeper matches that happen, right? Yeah, many.
There's slaughter matches. There's, the way this league's format set up is by the end of the season, we knew we were locked in place, right? So our last series against Simplicity, we're literally like how the heck do we make people watch this match? Like, no one's going to watch Simplicity versus Heroes Hearth when neither team has anything at stake. There's nothing at stake in a lot of these tournament matches, not to mention the league format encourages and rewards players for taking low risks. It rewards teams that play low risk win comps. It does not reward risky comps. It does not reward thinking outside the box.
Right.
It rewards low risk compositions. It rewards consistency over a season, and there's so little at stake in each individual game, with very few games that actually end up I mean, obviously matches do matter. I'm exaggerating there, but you end up with.
But there's very little reward to coming up with an amazing composition and bussing it out in the middle of the league. But bussing out a crazy composition in the middle of a tournament is like super cool. Like that, you get articles about it, you get people excited, and that's compelling. And I don't know.
It's like that to the point where at least like my teams, we've like found comps that were like, oh, this is super good, and it's like, okay, let's save it for 6 months. And then it gets nerfed, and then you never do it. Never using it. Yeah. Sometimes it gets nerfed, or you don't even get the chance to play it. But it like even not getting the chance to ever play it, it's like there was still no point to show it. Like
I hate
like
that.
The first one that one of the last ones I can think of was like Gorge Portal. Like we played that like in scrims a few times, and we were like, oh, this is super good at the time. It's like, okay, we'll play it at BlizzCon in 8 months, maybe. There's no point in showing it, like, no point in cheesing out a win during the season, just because, like, it feels like either you've locked down first place, and if you haven't, then it, like, doesn't really matter. Like, this last part, we didn't, like, first got kind of out of reach of us, and we still ended up getting second seed, but it was, like, at the point, basically, where it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like, we have to beat the best team that's left over anyways in the bracket. So it's like you're either first or trying to not get crucibled. Like 2nd through 6th is like it's not that huge.
It's server advantage is literally the only thing, but even that depending on where you are, it's not a big deal. I mean, think about beginning of phase 2, we literally played like 3 straight series of nothing but Blaze Johanna. I literally exited part 1 having played 3 heroes the entire part 1, and that's just was the smart thing to do. We found something that people couldn't beat, and we ran it over and over and over, and we went undefeated, and we basically clinched first place in part 1 because of it. So
I mean, it's smart because if you have other drafts, people have no idea what else you're capable of. There's a lot of intelligent things about that, but
I mean, like. The league just rewards consistency and taking no risks, and that's not fun for anyone.
Yeah. Well, again, this was just supposed to be an open forum talking about the pros and cons, how people feel about it. It was just good to get some insight as to a veteran player that's been in the scene like Cattle and Ishbu, who's climbed through open division and got into it, and it was actually really nice chatting about that with you guys. Chatting about the map pool, obviously there's a lot of changes coming to the game in the next few weeks. Although we might have Orphea and stuff, we're getting the XP changes apparently on the PTR next Monday. Stitch's rework will probably come with that. Sylvanas rework is in the pipeline, but who knows when that will come out. I assume similar timing. Maybe we'll see a video tomorrow and it'll be on the PTR next week as well. That is very much something Blizzard has done in the past. That's pretty much going to do it for the show tonight, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to talk about anything else that might be on your brain. Ishbu, you got anything that you'd like to discuss? Any topic pertaining to Heroes?
Any topic?
Anything. I know that's a hot potato. It's like, oh, what do I do?
I mean, it's a hot potato, but it's also you know me. If you give me any one topic, it's going on 30 more minutes, but I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
That's fine, man. I like it.
No, I don't know. We covered a lot of things I was wanting to say just in terms of the league, and I guess, I mean, like we talked about format, we talked about the balance changes, we talked about other things. The only other thing we haven't really talked about in Blizzard, even still is kind of sweeping under the rug, is just like matchmaking changes, which every pro and their mother is beating to death. So I don't really think we need to do so here. But I don't know. I don't even know what to say on it now that I've brought it up, to be honest with that, because everything's been covered at this point. the way matchmaking at high levels right now in terms of masters and stuff, just it's another one of those cases where it hasn't worked. It needs to be changed, and it needs a radical change, and Blizzard doesn't seem to be willing to do it. So pros have been sending them nonstop stuff about that. I said with the Blaze stuff, they were really good about feedback. They told me what they liked about my Blaze.
They've always been good about feedback.
They're good. Well, they were good about feedback for that. They haven't been so good about feedback matchmaking changes. And I don't know if that's just because pros express their changes in a much more angry fashion, or if they're just legitimately not sure what they're looking for with it. So I don't know. I think all the changes that they've done are very good, or at least give me a good place to start on. Maybe the XP changes will be bad. I don't know. I'm hoping they're not, just for the sake of the game, and I'm hoping that if they aren't, they have a very easy fix, something which is numerical that can be fixed quickly and adjusted. I'll trust Blizzard on that so far. I mean, they made a game I love, but matchmaking needs to be addressed sometime soon, or else ladders. I don't know. You've got pros driving themselves insane on ladder right now. You've got high-level players driving themselves insane on ladder.
I think the Hero League Team League merger is going to throw us all into a chaotic pit of snakes anyways, so hold your breath on that, or don't hold your breath on that one right now.
We'll see, but I don't know. That's just the last one. Like, I won't go into specifics, but that is the next thing I really do want to hear news about sometime soon. So that's more on, I want Blizzard to start focusing their sights on that, because
Cattle?
I'm pretty much all talked out. I don't know. I just want to see all the changes that have been announced come into the game now. That's the main thing I'm waiting for. It's like really hard to have any like opinion on any of the like coming stuff or what needs to be fixed without actually like seeing it. So I just want to play all the maps with the experience changes. I want to see what their plans are for like combining the MMRs of stuff and seeing how it changes the ladder. And yeah, I don't know. At this point, it's just like a waiting game for me. I'm glad the patch came today. That made me. This morning, I was like, man, I really need new content.
Yeah.
And then an hour later, I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting a patch. Nice.
Happy day.
I will not name names, but one player on my team is
cut out.
Yeah, you cut out hard. You're gone.
Oh. I will not name names, but one player on my team has been waiting for new content and hasn't played HOTS in like 20 days. Specifically just because like it doesn't matter, the game's going to change so much.
No, that's smart. Frankly, you know, I used to be a competitive Smash player, and one of the healthiest things I ever used to do is just take a break. Because you come back, you're reinvigorated. It almost feels like the game feels better. It feels smoother. Like every time I take a break. So good. I'm glad you guys had that opportunity, because there was very little reason to be grinding prior to these changes. Big change coming in. But we are out of time. So Ishbu, man, shout outs to whomever you like.
Well, first of all, I mentioned a lot of times, shout out to everyone watching and all the HOTS fans, HGC fans. You guys are why we're able to do this stuff. You guys are why this league is alive and why shows like this can exist. So thank you so much. Also, shout out to obvious sponsor, Heroes Hearth. Cattle had the better camera positioning. You can see his sponsor. You couldn't see mine. This is a Heroes Hearth t-shirt. Buy our stuff. We have a lot of stuff. But yeah, shout out to Heroes Hearth. Great sponsor. They've been with us this whole year. And they got a lot of awesome content and guides. I just recently put up an Orphea guide on there. So if anyone wants to check out Orphea content. Otherwise, just...
Does Crone have a guide so I can follow that one instead?
He does. Actually.
Wait, has he? I don't actually put that.
I think he released like an initial one.
Oh, he released the initial thing, yeah. Shout out to Twitch chat, because Twitch chat is always lovely and deserves getting shouted out. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Cattle.
Yeah, more of the same. Shout outs to Tempo Storm for staying with us through this whole long ride. And yeah, shout outs to all our sponsors, and shout outs to Twitch chat, of course. Shout outs to everyone who watches HOTS and supports us and hangs out in all the streams. I spend like a ton of time after scrims in just random people's streams or streaming myself, and yeah, just seeing all the faces in chat is really fun. Yeah, shout out to my cats too. They're very annoying today.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. And yeah.
One I did forget. Shout out to you, Jake. Thank you for putting this on.
Thank you, man.
We appreciate it, man.
Well, shout out to you guys for joining me tonight. It's been a very fun show. I guess the few things that another different shout out is just to all the journalists that create content for our game. I feel like this game doesn't get a ton of coverage. So Tim Rizzo, everyone else that writes content, that asks questions, Chaos OS, you guys are super, you guys work hard to dive in, uncover stuff, give more details on and everything, and just provide more information to everyone, which is big for exposure and growing the scene in general. And you guys are always very appreciated for everything you do on that front. 2 weeks from now, we'll have our next episode. Akala has been in Japan. I think he flew home today. He popped in the chat briefly earlier. March will be back as well, and we'll probably get on some guests. The Town Hall Winter Brawl is something that we're still planning. Finding the right date is tough with Christmas, New Year's, and not knowing the HGC dates. We originally were going to do the middle of December, but we're looking closer to January. Obviously, we will announce on Twitter and Reddit and everything when that's happening. We are going to crowdfund it. We're going to sell Town Hall Hero shirts, and we're going to do stuff like that just to give a prize pool incentive during this off season. We want to offer at least like $1,000 to the teams to be able to compete for, so it's something fun to do. Winner takes all, maybe. We'll figure it out, and honestly, it will be on the new patch with the new maps, and we will be communicating with the players to the best of our ability to figure out what kind of map pool we want to do. Maybe we force teams into playing specific maps for the round robin or something. That's something we're exploring. We want it to be a very fun event to basically give teams a reason to compete for money on the new map changes. But that's the goal. And thanks for tuning in. MP3, a lot of people have been asking, don't expect anything before 2019. We'll figure it out then. It's just going to be a chaotic December for us. GG's. We'll see you next time. Peace. Welcome here to Town Hall Heroes.